industry. Large part was with IBM. Then I moved to TechProcess, transformed that BPO company into a hardcore fintech. We gave successful exits. My partner in crime, my co-founder Anand, is there. Both working as a CFO, as a CEO. And last 3 years, actually, we've been working on Kapittx. One of the consistent thing that throughout my journey have been is how do we get the right customer in place? If we have the right customer in place, a lot of things get sorted out. And that's what we're going to talk about. Into it, and I just thought, so what does Kapittx do? Okay, we are an account receivable automation platform backed by ePayments. We enable customer-facing teams and account receivable teams to collect payment faster and more efficiently than they were doing before. Right? This statement came into existence after we spent a lot of time in refining our ICP and what we intend to do. And during this presentation, I'll give some examples. In between, I'll keep talking about Kapittx journey and a few other examples that I've worked with when I've talked to various startup companies in my career. Just a quick checkpoint, right? Just checking. How many of you thought that your startup journey was so smooth and reality was something different? Just raise a hand. Way it is, right? And what do you think so in your experience has contributed to this reality? Again, 3 pointers, right? So we can quickly go with the rapid fire. Why is that journey so smooth and reality is different?
Stay focused and look for solutions.
Okay, stay focused and look for solution. Okay, that's one. Yeah, Rajat.
Usually we are solving problems from our perspective.
Yeah. Customer perspective. Okay, interesting. Solving so inside out, and you're looking for a customer looking outside. You should be actually looking outside.
Yes, sir. And make it
Yep. Okay. So we end up into subconsciously we end up into a phase where we start managing complexity by getting ourselves too complicated. Idea is to not get complicated. Manage complexity without getting it too complicated. Right? One of the main root cause of we getting into reality, okay, is jumping and not having the right customer. Our customer, because we are searching for the customer and you start driving the organization in a different direction. Trust me, after spending 25-30 years, I went through this trap myself again. And I'll give you my journey as well. Okay? And it was intentional. We knew we were going to get into this trap. Okay, but we said we have no choice but to get it. But you know when to withdraw. That's the important part, right? Okay. Earlier I talked about as startup founders, we always start with. You able to see it? Yeah. We always start with a hypothesis, some assumptions. Okay, and there are 2 kinds of assumptions, and I would love to do a quick poll again. How many of you first thought about a product, saw a good company, successful company, market is big enough, we will build it and we'll find your customers for that. That's one category. The second category is, I've experienced the problem, someone has shared the problem to me, and we actually started looking for what's the right product to solve that problem. So who is for the first category? And there's no right or wrong, by the way. Companies keep oscillating between the two, and I'll tell you why. Irrespective of this, you still have need ICP. Okay, so which is the bucket? Which bucket some of you fall in? Whether the product and then build start looking for a customer or a problem, or you saw a problem and then you build a product.
We saw a problem, built it, went back. So
it happens all the time, right? What about others? You saw the problem and then you build a product. You first build a product and then look for a problem.
The experience is you start solving a problem, then you realize that this is not a real problem and then you jump.
That's even fun. That's even fun. Absolutely. No? Okay. You're not different. Every startup, and I've seen it not in be it IBMs, be it large established companies. Every organization goes through these 2 phases all the time. The only thing is, from founders' point of view, as founders, okay, ideally we should be here, okay, and as the journey goes in, product, you have established something, then you have an established product, you start expanding the market, you start looking for, basis your product, you start looking for a problem. So it's not, you end up, it's just that the team below needs to know how to handle the situation their time. Right? And we're going to talk a little bit using a framework how to get there. But we always wish for a few things. More customers, more revenue, you want a pipeline, you want traction. I'm going to keep using this word very often in this, repeatability. It's very relevant from a startup point of view, right? You want quick onboarding, your GTM should be sharp, you want to move from development to, more selling focus. But there's always this but comes into the picture. That reality, the reality check, right? What happens is smooth is not, the reality is very different. And that but is, you start seeing these gaps. Our journey is never like this, right? You just move, flattish, you move, flattish, and then you start seeing there's a struggle. One of the reasons that starts going to that phase is, again, the ideal customer. Okay? And that brings us a very important point where I'll talk about the framework now. Okay? Now, when you're looking for ideal case, customer profile, I try to put this into a formula. Okay? The end result should be repeatable. You should continue to build a McDonald's burger and it should be consumed by everybody. That's one thought process. Right? Now, this section about problem, motivation, and money is about your customer, the prospect that you're going to focus on. Ability is you, your organization. Trigger is both your customer and you. And if you're able to make this repeatable, you're coming closer to your ICP. Now, what does this problem, motivation, and money means? Okay, so you're looking for a problem which is consistent across the same problem across the same set of customers, similar set of customers. So, problem is not changing, right? So that's one very important characteristic about the problem should not change, right? The second aspect is to solve the problem. There is some compelling reason at that customer's organization that they want to solve. The compelling reason could be bosses upset. Compelling reason could be they have committed to shareholders. Compelling reason could be there is some compliance is going to get impacted. Okay, compelling reason could be there's a cost. Compelling reason could be there's revenue implications. There's a compelling reason. Right? So again, that has to be consistent. Once you find the compelling reason, then there should be motivation to solve. Okay, is it person or the organization is motivated enough? There are people who will not, there is a company who will just on it. Okay? So there got to be motivation. If there is a motivation there should be money, enough money to solve the problem. Right? And more important, this is very true in Indian market context, they should be willing to pay. Right? In that, we always say India is a very, very competitive market. But there should be willingness to pay. If there's no willingness to pay, that means you need to question, is this the right customer? So what? They're compelling enough, there's a compelling reason, they have the motivation, they have the money, but they're willing to spend. If any of this starts compromising, question mark. And this can come in a spreadsheet. And we'll talk a little more about how to define this. Now comes your organization. You need to look at all this aspect and their ability to solve it. But ability to solve means what? Every customer, every small to large, medium to large organization, they have some alternatives. Trust me, the alternative could be as good as paper, spreadsheets, some other tool. So you're competing with something. And whenever you're going to solve it, then you have to have a best and the most efficient way to change management. Right? Now, any change management that you do, if you know that I have to pick this bottle from one to here, and I keep doing this, it starts becoming efficient for you. You can automate it. But the moment you start looking, there are like one bottle, one big box, you'll find it difficult. So what you're looking for is your ability to change with least friction to the customer and at least cost to you. So that's your ability. Right? Third is very important is a trigger. What is this trigger? Now in the trigger, the customer is willing to solve it now and they will need to solve it with you. What are the characteristics that will make them believe that you are going to solve it? And the customer is convinced that it's you are the right person to solve it. Because look, they have alternatives. All these characteristics combined together, if you find the magic formula that's working for one, the same formula is working for second, third, fourth, becomes a problem. Now look what happens. You try to solve this for say one customer which is in banking, you take the similar problem and try to solve this for an insurance customer. If you have a very horizontal product, maybe it will work. Okay? But you also have to look at for organization's capability point of view. Now that comes in the impact and the value proposition. I'm sure Abhi is going to talk a little more about it. Your entire messaging changes. When you are talking to a banker and you go and talk to insurance customer is very different. You go and talk to a lawyer is a completely different language. Okay, you talk to a multinational company, you talk to a public sector organization. Everything starts changing. In our larger landscape, we always think that the problem is same. But now look at, it's not about the problem being same. Your organization's ability also will need to be refined for that customer segment. So your sales organization, your delivery organization, your customer success organization, everything needs to be factored in when you're saying an ICP. Imagine a salesperson, it's very simple. Imagine one salesperson, now suddenly tell him, go and sell to a lawyer. Now go to sell a manufacturing company. Now go and sell to a banker. How many times that they have to go and adapt the language and the lingo? Why the customer, when you show a picture, okay, somewhere you are there in the picture. What will you first look at? Yourself or someone else? Unless you have a girlfriend as well there. Naturally, you're going to look for yourself first. Right? When you're going to talk to the customer, when you're talking to the ideal customer in your conversation, what will they want to hear? About themselves first. They're not interested in listening to your story. They want to know my problem. The Maslow's theory, if you learn a little bit in the management, Maslow's theory is very much applicable over here. Myself comes first. And that's what the customer's organization is. Now, in your organization's, when you talk about customer, what matters, all these characteristics has to come in and how repetitive. Now, sharper you go, narrower you go, sharper you get. Okay? And this will immediately lead to a better value proposition. Now, every time when you're looking for the customer, when you're quantifying the problem, how you're going to solve it, please look into 3 parameters. What you're doing, your solution, your ability that will help customers improve revenue, reduce cost, or improve customer satisfaction. If your problem that you're solving doesn't fit into any of the 3 categories, you will have a problem. Your storyline is weak. Either you have a wrong customer, or you have a wrong segment, or you're not doing the right problem. And then the question comes in, can you give a 10x return to the customer with your ability? So these parameters, if you can start putting into your framework, and even look at, if you build a product first, okay, like some of you are in the product first category, and now you're looking for a solution, or customers having that problem and trying to solve that, start putting in this framework. You'll start seeing much better answers. If you have a problem and you're looking for a solution, I'm building a product, start looking for a customer with some of these characteristics, things will start simplifying. It's like as good as you're building a missile, okay, and you put all the gizmos and how it can create a blast and how it will do damage without knowing which target it needs to hit. It's as good as that. So this gives you all the characteristics of taking closer to your ICP. Now, some of these questions that came in were in, it's talked about a little bit about segmentation, MVP, right? In the early stage, okay, when we are doing a product and the problem statement, have you guys familiar with this crossing the chasm chart? Right? If not, I would encourage you, Jeffrey Moore's book, Crossing the Chasm, brilliant. Okay? Most of the time when we are looking for our early customers which are in this category, and they are also part of your MVP. They come through relationships, friends and families, and so on and so forth. So we start building, thinking in our mind that that's our ICP. We got our first paying customer, ideal. No. Now, if you have to buy a bullet bike, okay, who will you ask? The person who's driving a car, the person who's riding a scooter or a scooty, or the person who's in the bullet club? Right? Referenceability. You start looking for a tribe. ICP is nothing but you need to find what your tribe is. That tribe is this early majority. So while you're doing things over here, it's important to get into who's your early market. That's going to give you growth. Now, Kapittx Do. Experience, we thought we were doing very good things. AR is a problem for everybody? Of course. 95% of the companies today manage AR or using spreadsheets. Very universal. Will every company require AR software? Of course, everybody. Assumption. So we said, okay, how do we now make market out of it? So me and Anand, when we moved out of TechProcess in October, 6 months we didn't do anything. We just went and meeting customers, prospects. What are they saying? What the pain points are, and so on and so forth. We put a framework, and I'll cover a little bit of that framework today. After doing that, we selected 2 segments. Okay, what we call as minimum viable segment. So more than MVP or your TAM or your SAM or SOM, keep this one word in mind, which is again help you get closer to your ICP. Is that ICP segment that I'm selecting viable enough to make your early stage startup to a break even? If not, something is wrong in your segment selection or the customer selection. Right? Now, we went and we selected FMCG and IT sectors. Okay, within IT we decided to focus on system integrators. Within FMCG we decided to focus on those companies which are selling to modern trade. And both have AR problems. One is driven by reconciliation, and one was driven by pure follow-ups. We said, okay, we need to find out which one is going to be a bigger segment. And knowing we are experienced guys, we can do it. But we realized that as we started focusing on both, there was a time when we had closed deals with ID Foods, Sumeru, Pagaria. We had NDAs with Nivea, Spiker, so some lingerie brands called Rupa, Dixie, and the list will go on. Okay, we were very happy. Invoice number of invoices, because per invoice pricing, and the SaaS story was coming very right. So we said, okay, this one segment is going well. Similarly to parallel, or even we started getting some early customers on IT services. But when you looked back on the engineering side, we started going from what was a smooth plan, reality hit us, started hitting us. Because now it starts stretching delivery. Because you're talking 2 different islands, and every time you're trying to see how this will merge together into one product. Okay, now comes the founder's thought process. Where you want to bet? So we took a hard call saying we want to deselect FMCG. Imagine you have so many NDAs signed, very good brands, but a tough call, no. So as when it comes to ICP, it's also very important. It's not about to whom all you can sell. It's to whom you want to sell. There's a subtle difference. So you need to ask this question, is this the one they really want to sell? It's not about we can sell. Of course you can sell. Okay? So that subtlety started coming in, because it's just not selecting as founders, I can sell here. But you also have to look at how the rest of the organization is relating to that model. And founders, we can drive the organization. If it's one mistake, I keep telling the organization, if there's one mistake I made, and I push the organization, putting those 2 sectors together. Mistake, classic mistake. But you need to also know how to course correct it. Now when you're looking for, in your early MVP stage, you keep looking, it's just not about minimum viable product, you please look at minimum viable segment. Yes, oh, they play a lot. Okay. Now depends on where your positioning will be. Now I'll again come to 1, 2, 3 points, right? Like Kapittx brought a point wherein competition is, for instance, is a bigger customer, but the bigger customer we may not be relevant to. It happened with us, saying that we have a problem, okay, but you're not ready for us. Fair enough, right? So at least we ask them, because you're my ideal customer, to get ready. Where am I lacking? Can you tell me? But because you're my ideal customer, and some of us came with very good inputs to us. For you to be relevant to us, you need to be SOC compliant, you need to do this, you need to do that. So we had a laundry list ready, because I know my gap, bridging to that ideal customer that I want. But we started then middle. We started small. We started refining the product, keeping that mind that we keep looking at enterprise customers. Like I had one slide. Imagine a triangle. Triangle is large enterprises. Below is really small MSME kind of customer. At some stage, you will have a choice as founders when you're looking for ideal customer segment or a market. Okay, you can either go on top towards enterprise, or you will go bottom towards MSME. You want to avoid staying in the middle. Okay, that's a trap, because then what happens is you are not so sure whether you want to build a model basis for an MSME kind of model, or you want to be on an enterprise. Moment the middle, you'll expect everything like enterprise, but they'll play like an MSME. Okay, this is a very India phenomenon, by the way. Okay, so and you may want to then look at, and whereas in your mind, okay, you want to sell everything like MSME, expect price like enterprise. Naturally, there's a conflict. So at some stage, you have to take a choice. Like Kapittx, we went through that, and you are going to go through that journey. You're lucky if you get you have such a good tech that you're going to get directly to your enterprise customers. You're lucky. If not, then you keep refining. Slide. It's just not about the problem statement that you're going to solve. From founder's point of view, it's also important how much time it takes to close the deal. It's the size of the deal. Okay, the how much change that will involve in executing the deal. Your end or as well as the customer end. Okay, it's so important. Okay, it's not about just the customer is going to give me that money. A wrong customer can suck your entire organization in a very different direction, and you may not realize suddenly that I've gone back to that reality diagram that I initially showed. Now there are many questions that you can ask. In the URL link that Saurabh, I hope some of you read. I hope it was valuable. So I found that blog super useful. That being said, few sample questions. Okay, what originates the problem? You need to have the visibility. Is it consistent across what customer segments? What kind of customer? Size, mid-size, enterprise, small, so on and so forth. Similarly, what's the impact? We talked about whether impact on revenue, impact on cost, whether impact on customer satisfaction, because then it builds the value proposition, right? What attempts they have made in the past to solve it. As I said, they have options. You may not be the only one. So they'll always have some options. Okay, what is the urgency to solve that problem and solve it now? That will also define how much you're going to charge. That being said, you can put so what we did, me and Anand, when we started our ICP, we actually built a matrix. Whatever we were learning, we started putting in the matrix. Okay? Then we said if you have to build a repeatability, how do we refine it? So the refinement would come in. We want to, like our platform involves integration with ERP, accounting ERP. So now, our ideal customer would be say SAP, working in insurance customer, insurance segment. My focus is on chief revenue officers in US, in New York. Okay, and you can start going more and more filtered. Narrower you get, sharper you get in your initial stage. Okay, because you're able to solve the problem for that set of customers in a repeatable way. Then you'll again start moving because you have some refined product, you're getting towards break even. Then you'll go product, you'll start looking for a problem. Right? Because you'll still change because that product may not fit for the segment. Again, you have to do the same exercise. Every time you change the ICP, your product is going to change, your messaging is going to change, your delivery is going to change. So many things, you need to be aware of those changes that you're going to bring into your organization. In this section, ability in FMCG to manage the change was becoming a big pain point for us. Customer is willing to say, but solve it, but for us it was a problem. That's number one. Number two, we were ready to solve. Okay? But when we realized the willingness to pay was very low. Okay? Naturally, that means what? I'm solving something, but I'm not going to get rewarded adequately. Okay? And our philosophy was how fastest we can go to break even. Okay? That was our model. We're not worried about, in terms of revenue. Our focus was break even. And different startups will have different thought process. Mine and Anand's philosophy is old traditional way. Build an organization sustainable enough that you can take yourself closer to break even. Then you don't have the mercy of funds and so on and so forth, right? So that was the philosophy we were approaching. So we were very clear in terms of being frugal, not to spend too much. We want to manage change in a particular way. It's very refined. IT services, we found out the same consistent problem. Then we found out that in the framework that we have about say 30 odd customers. So we first started with mid segment, okay, who are typically IT resellers of say Dell, Cisco, Palo Alto, Amazon, Azure and other companies. We realized that then we started going higher and higher. Some smaller customers came in, we said okay fine, but at this price. Okay. But why was this narrowed down so well? Because the same segment, everything remains same. If you take it the left hand shift and focus on US as a market, the characteristics doesn't change. Same reseller of Dell, Cisco, IBM exists in US, 40,000 is number. Now my TAM, my minimum viable segment if you go to the US has suddenly become bigger. Right? There are few thousand exist in India as well. Willingness to pay in India is X. We know that general benchmark, willingness to pay of the same segment, all characteristics remaining same, is 4 times X India. So naturally, now what we have done, we have found an ICP which is very closer. Now, and we will build this. Okay, for that. Now what happens, assume we have grown, all the capability that we have built in for FMCG is not gone waste. We have built a cash application, this concept called cash application, wherein you reconcile, customer giving their statement with invoice and everything is automated. Document scanning, parsing, and some recon logic and stuff like that. Same thing we will reintroduce in India, in the US. In US it's called cash application. It's a well-established product in the US. In India they could give me $50,000 rupees. In US they will pay me maybe 20 times that. So we withdrew the product from India. We said we will relaunch this in the US at the right time, not now. You getting the concept? So whole philosophy is not just about the problem, it's all that equation with repeatability in mind. The word got to be repeated. You have to consistently repeat the same story. Like the other day I was talking to someone else. You're trying to send it to a lawyer. Okay, now you want to try and send it to the banker. Look. And I gave an example of bullet. How many times a lawyer will talk to a banker? How big is the law firms in India? So the customers buying, behavior. How do they buy? How do they get influenced? A banker will talk to a banker. A banker will not talk to an insurance company. A lawyer will not talk to something, an IT company. Right? So what as founders we want is our cost of acquisition should be lower. How will it happen? When you improve referenceability. Right? Who will refer to whom then? A SaaS founder will refer to SaaS founder. He will not talk to someone else. An IT company to IT company, FMCG to FMCG. That's another reason why we deselected FMCG. FMCG and IT are not talking to each other. Why are we doing it? Maybe we're too ahead of our time. right? So some of these characteristics that you're hearing will matter when you're looking at your customer portfolio or your existing customer portfolio or a new segment that you're targeting. Narrower you go in your, all the characteristics, repeatable you get. Like for instance, when we solved iMocha's problem, okay, iMocha, QuickBooks, Zoho, Kapittx. QuickBooks, Zoho, QuickBooks, HubSpot, Kapittx. Now, how many will be customers in QuickBooks and HubSpot in the US? We know what we have done to solve and build entire automation layer on resource management. QuickBooks, HubSpot. Now it becomes repeatable, right? We have similarly built repeatable model for SCP, for Zoho, for Tally. So our delivery becomes sharp. What if you now say that earlier we take few days to deliver, now it takes to integrate and deliver on QuickBooks is 10 minutes job. To integrate SAP is 1 hour job. How it happens? Only when you do refine that again and again and again, you get better. There are 2 examples. Okay, take 2 minutes to read. Tell me which is the better ICP and what is missing. The first one, and I'm taking 2 different, right? Because I don't know what's the mix of the business that you are in, but you'll get an idea. First is sales training software, and second is an HR recruitment software. Which one is better? Which one could be better? And even this can be done better. Yeah, let's go to the first. Let's go to the second one. What did you like about this?
It is specific to B2B SaaS and it exactly takes how much revenue I'm using.
Right? So now they're going HR, head HR, in a B2B SaaS startup, small business, 5 open positions. How they're narrowing down. Okay? Now I would love, if you're in the early stage, I would say even in B2B SaaS, HR tech or CRM, okay, or something, you can still further refine it. Finally, you get better your messaging will be. Okay, because it's not just your sales, your delivery, your marketing, your LinkedIn posts, everything starts, your connection starts going into that refinement. If you look at the first one, very broad. Head of sales of a company that hires. Which company? What segment? What's the turnover? They mentioned turnover. How many total size of the employee? What technology, if there is a technology involved? Which location? Which city? Okay. So when we first started Mumbai, then we went to Bangalore, then we went to Chennai, then we went into North. We didn't pick up. North was last for us in India. Okay, because we knew Mumbai customers will refer to Mumbai. Okay, Chennai was Chennai. Moment we got someone else. Chennai ecosystem got activated. Bangalore ecosystem got activated. Right? So you have to look for your tribe. Problem same. Customer segment same. Characteristics same. If my salesperson comes back and says it's like 50 less than 50 employees, so we'll ask a question. Does it fit in? He says no. Do you want to invest time? No. How? You as founders, we don't have to then get into those conversations because not just you, the rest of the organization is also clear what their behavior, day-to-day behavior should be, day-to-day actions should be, and that's why in the initial stage, clearer your ICP, okay, clearer your value proposition, okay. So that will let me come to my summary slide. Few important points to note, right? It's not about to whom all you can sell. I build a product, who can sell? Everybody can buy. Okay, enterprises can buy. No, it's to whom you want to sell. There's a subtle difference. Selection and deselection give undue weightage and importance to deselection. Why you want to deselect it? Selection is easy. It's very easy. Deselection is very, very hard. and our experience tells us that reason why we could transform a BPO company into a payments company and sold it from $6 million valuation to $100 million valuation, deselection. We knew which businesses we had to sell. We knew which business we had to shut down. We knew which segments we had to shut down. We knew, when entire market in India on payments was focusing on e-commerce, me and Anand went and presented to the board, e-commerce is not right for us now. We should focus on gaming, government, education. Even now, those are the profitable business for the company. Why? Because no one was focusing on them. So you need to have a framework. Who should be your ideal customer for that stage? And that stage is defined by a strategic direction where you want to take your startup to. Right? So that's one important point. There is a universal definition of ICPs. You can at least get closer to it. And as I said, give an example, right? You're going to start with problem, build product, you're going to have product, and then look for a problem. No matter what, at some stage you're going to go and keep shifting between the two. It is just that you need to have a mechanism to educate your team how to navigate that. Okay, when you're putting a product to a problem, there is a way to handle that. That framework, you can adapt that framework. You have a problem, then you're going to select a product or you build a product. Again, the framework, very important. Okay. Be prepared to modify your ICP as you go. Yeah.
So when you are putting things like the turnover of a company or number of jobs open, so it's all a manual job to figure out, or do you because this is not public data for many companies. So how do you find out your list to even prove or disprove whether this is the correct segment? Or
There are research companies who do it. Okay, we use interns. Okay, MBAs who are in the first year, and they are super efficient if they are given a framework. They can do a phenomenal job.
the framework, as in, let's say there are 30 people in a company, so the revenue must be X.
That's how we make those assumptions. And the moment you start putting that for first 10, 15 or even 50, whatever customers, you will be able to build a logic on that. Like what me and Anand did, along with our sales person, Mahesh. We actually downloaded almost 300 to maybe now the number would have gone to 400 balance sheets from MCA website. Before building the product, we had already downloaded 150. Before even building a product, just to narrow down research, assumption and research, right? So we have to validate what is AR, how big is the AR problem, what percentage of AR is locked into the balance sheet, okay? How companies are handling it, what's our competition? Our competition is not any other company, no. We don't even consider them as a competition. Okay, we know we are 10x better than them. Okay, our competition is spreadsheet. Okay, so we have to find ways. So all that comes into picture. That which company is willing to spend on all that I talked about. We've implemented almost all of them.
Ask your marketing team to do this, and do your first 100 yourself, right? And then you can outsource it. See, it's like there's darkness. You're trying to find something. Asking somebody else to do it for you, you will not learn how to find light. So ask your marketing team to hunt and go and scrap data for the 100 accounts. Then you know what to ask for. And there are a lot of companies there who can do it for you, but those companies will also ask you the question, ki bharna kya? What do you want me to fill? So once you do with your marketing people, then you send it to that. And there are a lot of companies in India who do what we call data research and collection. And internationally you have Apollo and whatnot, so you will get the data very clearly. Sales Navigator also does a very good job, So, but it needs to start internally.
Couldn't agree more on this. Like most of the deals that we are able to close, and at a price point higher than like in market on AR, by the way, there are competitors who charge 5,000 rupees per year. We charge 2 lakh, 3 lakh rupees per year. People couldn't believe that customers in India will pay that kind of amount for a tool like this where they're going to replace spreadsheet. Yeah. We have customers pay, but all that research matters. And initially, what Abhi talked about, me and Anand actually 6 months we did not do anything. We got a working prototype built from someone just to get a point of view feedback, but all the research as founders we did before even building it. Then we had a good clarity to build a 10x better product in the market. Okay, coming to now when are you going to change in ICP? Like for instance, if you're going to move, classic example, if you're going to move from banking to say insurance, a banker's product won't work for insurance, an insurance product won't work for a lawyer. Okay, or a lawyer's product won't work for a tech company. Because the moment you tell them, I have a brilliant customer, this is a law firm, they're using it, and you're selling this to a tech company, look, he'll say, it's like bullet versus you have a bicycle. They'll say, I'm a bullet guy and you're trying to show me this is a brilliant bicycle customer. No, they won't relate. Whenever there's a change in ICP, there are a lot of parameters in your organization will change and you need to be aware of that. Like Karpe we talked about, it's SMB customers, and if you're going to look which ICPs which customers are contributing and all, you'll start analyzing the parameters of your ICP. You'll also need to look at your messaging, your engineering, and so on and so forth. It's just not about product alone. It's when you have to even sell that product in the market, and selling is not just product. So many other aspects gets involved when you're talking about an ICP. Okay. Last but very important point: clear your ICP. Clear your value proposition. It's like I was very clear whom I had to marry, and my value proposition is very clear to convince her. Okay, I cannot go broader, right? So it's the same thing for us as founders. Clearer we are whom we want to focus on, your messaging will be very, very clear why you, right? And that's when you will win it. So that's what the So if I get the question correct, customers' ability to pay, we are in a space wherein jo bhi milta hai le lo, okay, and get the customer onboarded, and the customer may have the ability to pay more, right? There are two separate parts now, and I think so partly this will get covered in the value proposition. If the value is correct, customers' willingness to pay should be higher. Unless your product positioning and perception in that customer is different, and hence they don't see value. That being said, in the first $1 million that you need to get, so we have done deals which are like customer wanting to 50,000, 25,000 rupees. Okay, me and Anand we talked about, I said just get it, because it's your fastest way to say $1 million. Fair enough. But what is important is your ability to manage change. How much they're going to suck your resources. If that starts disproportionate, don't take that customer. Okay, because funding, you're going to end up burning, you want to manage your cash flow as well. So if they're going to suck, see, customer drives delivery. Now when this starts getting into chaotic mode is, if you don't have the right ICP defined, you end up doing for different customers different things. Okay. So what happens is, you build a core product, you take it to the market. Okay? Then you know that to make my product work, you need to give training, you need to give support, etc., and you launch it. But when the customer starts using it, they actually expect very different things. Okay? They are expecting some custom thing, they are expecting a third-party integration, which you're not ready. Now, this is a reality. If you don't have this ICP defined, this wheel keeps changing by customer, then you are going into a reality trap of chaos. So it's your job when you're doing, even if you have to onboard a customer, just check it out whether your delivery wheel, okay, and your time, founder's time, engineering time, the most valuable time in the early stage of startup is engineering. The most valuable time is engineering time. you need to find that time to get up, because that will have a significant influence on your product. If you're not in product, you are becoming a services company, fair enough, then this statement is not applicable, the model will slightly change. Okay, so how we do? We built this framework, okay, and we now keep in mind whenever we are changing, so Kapittx wants to be a global product. Be very clear. Global when I say is Indian US. Any change that we do in the product, we ask first how much is same for US and India. Initially we build the product in India, but now any change that happens, we ask ourselves, with this for 2 markets, it gets it. If not, it goes into that one. So we have a framework. Anything that comes custom delivery, if it's not fitting into our roadmap that we have built as a product, gets sidetracked. Okay? Anything within is a minor variation of delivery coming in, we have converted into a integration charges. So we have 3 revenues. System integration charges. You want to come on Kapittx, we will have onboarding charges. So our CAC is covered. We don't compromise on it. You have to pay. So if you see value, you have no choice, you have to pay us. Okay? So CAC addressed. Second, SaaS revenue. Okay? So which is subscription. On top of subscription, then now we started cutting deals with payments, which is a percentage of invoice. That's why I asked you, why are you not in a percentage of invoices, right? So initially, customers are going to find it very hard, okay, to digest this model. Have we done this before? Of course we've done this before. Have we cut the deals? We've cut the deals. Initially, you're going to evolve. Once your product starts refining, product speaks volume. Now the customer knows this is something look and feel, the customer says 10x better, now they want it, they're hungry for it. It will only happen when you're going to free up engineering bandwidth and not make a custom delivery organization. Because the difference between TCS, Infosys and the custom difference between SaaS startups, SaaS founders. And India is going to evolve. We are going to, like what Saurabh is doing, something incredible. We all as an ecosystem, we're going to evolve. Like Pune, we envision Pune becomes the next big ecosystem what Chennai is. And we all should stay connected on this. Right? So product mindset is very, very different. Okay? So I hope that is a long answer, but I hope it gets you clear. Yeah. This. And you're not having a vision on this segment. You're falling into a trap. Trust me on one thing. Once your product goes into an engineering mindset, to undo that, it's 10x effort. To undo what your engineering does, keeping in mind, we have no choice. To undo that, it's 10x effort. So you need to be clear on the effort that you're going to put in. Revenue, I'm not denying, revenue is important. Initially you have to show that, do that. But have a logical framework, have a vision there. There's a concept in management called equidistance of perspective. Short term and long term. You need to have, as founders, we need to have a short term perspective and a long term vision. Okay, it's very, very important. Take time to plan. Slow planning, faster execution. Very important. Take time to plan. We deliberate, we debate. Do you think so? It's like, so easy within, say, myself, Anand, and G, engineering? No. Sundays, Saturdays, sometimes we have fights, but that's okay. But we are slow in planning. But once the clarity is there, we are convinced this is it, it's fitting into a right long-term vision, then you build. Otherwise, it can go chaotic. I think so. I'm overshot time. Thank you so much, folks.